Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Monday, August the 10th. I'm Gary Stevens. Second Monday of the month. We spend some time talking about what's going on in the state capitol with State Representative Mary Whiteford from the 89th, I want to say, district, Mary?
80th.
Okay, 80th.
80.
I have problems with the numbers because I'm more into the geographical, which is most of Allegan County. Just the far northeast corner belongs to a state representative other than you, but you take care of most of Allegan County. And if you have a question for Mary, she'll be happy to join us, not on the Zoom connection, which we are on right now, but through our phone lines at 395-1450, 395-1450. First of all, congratulations on winning your primary. And, of course, you do have a challenger in the general election, but so far, so good.
Yeah, thank you. That was my final primary as state representative because I'm going into my third term now. So it's kind of bittersweet.
That was a question, though, because of the fact you had to finish off a term. Could you have 3 full terms of your own in that regard, or was, what was the ruling on that?
So the way that the law is set up, if a representative serves less than half of a term, that does not count. So as a state representative, I served 9 months in that particular term because I finished off another representative's term. If it's a senator, then it would be less than 2 years because a senator serves for 4 years. So if somebody comes in and fills a senator seat for less than 2 years, it's the same thing. It doesn't count for term limits.
All right, let me do
super third termer.
Let me do one more piece of housekeeping involving Mary Whiteford. It looks as if the Republican National Convention will not be held in Jacksonville, and it might be a virtual one. You are selected as an alternate in that regard. Would you still be basically zooming it, as they say, on this?
So I am a full delegate this time, and I'm just finding out how they want to proceed with this. I'm actually relieved that we're not actually physically meeting because this is a very difficult time right now. And I have a family, I have constituents. I don't take chances with getting sick and bringing something back home. So I was very relieved about that. We knew who our candidate was to begin with anyways. So there was, like with the Democrats, they still have to officially nominate their candidate. But with the Republicans, we knew who our candidate was. So I'm just kind of paying attention, finding out what's happening, but probably not a lot.
In that regard, not only Canada obviously is the highest profile situation, but also setting the party platform for the election as well, trying to get the right agenda. And to a certain extent, it's almost as if, let's see, keep the ship steady as it goes, despite the COVID-19 situation for the Republican Party in your mind?
That's what it seems like. And for me personally, it's just following conservative ideals. President Trump, he made a lot of headway with our nation, our economy. And I think it's really important to be able to have this second term to continue that pathway and consistency. The American people need consistency. When we had President Obama, it was important for him to have that full 8 years. So that's really what I think. I don't think there's going to be big changes, but it's just huge adjustments after this terrible year with COVID and all of our shutdowns. And we're expecting perhaps 2,000 people dying from suicide and drug overdose directly related to the depression and isolation of this virus. So it's important for us to ensure that we go to the granular level, so down to the person level, and make sure that we're empowering people to be able to do their best and be their very best person for their community, their family, themselves. So that's really my focus.
If you got a question for State Representative Mary Whiteford, she'll be happy to take it at 395-1450, 395-1450. The month of August right now, it's a month to work the districts, maybe limited sessions for the House and the Senate in Lansing before going back to work in earnest in September. How important will the next few weeks be in terms of maybe taking care of some unnecessary items? And I'm going to say right off the bat, get that budget taken care of. I know, try to get a budget to the governor's desk by the end of June. Probably wasn't going to happen because of the COVID-19 situation, but still have a spending plan ready to go by the end of the fiscal year on September 30th has to be paramount for all lawmakers.
Yeah, so this is a very busy month for me. Normally we do have our budget done by July. The governor has signed it into law. There's been so much uncertainty with COVID and people not working. What is the effect of people getting that additional $600 a month? What is the effect of delaying our income tax to July 15th? My husband's a tax accountant. Oh my gosh, I've never seen him so busy in July because so many people were coming in and paying their taxes. So what that all culminates in is something called CREC. It's Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference. By law, we have 2 a year, and then the economists, our fiscal folks, they look at the economy, they look at the amount of money coming in as a state, and they give us the direction for how to craft the budget. So we couldn't take into effect the May CREC, Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference. We do have one on August 20th where they're all getting together. It's at 3 p.m. and they are going to spend a couple hours just putting all this information together and making a presentation. And then the governor's budget director, Chris Kolb, the House Appropriations Chair, Hernandez, and the Senate Appropriations Chair, Stamas, they get together with their team and they say, okay, guys, here's our numbers, go to work. So I just got direction just 10 minutes ago to make sure that I've got all of so there's 2 parts of my budget. One part is the numbers. The second part is the enacting language. So my job right now is to get that enacting language finalized, even though I have spent probably 100 hours or more with my team all spring and going through summer to be ready for any situation. So I've got a lot of work on my plate.
Speaking about the state budget director, Chris Kolb, he has been quoted as saying that there's not enough fat in state government to be able to take care of the budget deficit for fiscal 2021. And even though he has not endorsed a tax hike, he says he cannot take it off the table if the feds don't come through. Representative Mary Whiteford, is there enough to be able to do this cutting without having to ask the constituents to pony up more money to be able to balance the state books?
So I bet you people don't realize every year as the economy has been improving, so since 2013, 14, our state budget has increased by almost $1 billion a year. $1 billion a year. So for us to scale back 3 years ago and figure this out without raising taxes for the hardworking people of Michigan who have been through enough, I totally am against raising any taxes. I think that we tighten our belt, we work closely with our departments, find out where there's wiggle room, and make sure, at least especially in my budget, the Health and Human Services budget, that I make sure that this safety net is strong and that people, our foster kids, our seniors in nursing homes, our people on Medicaid, that they have this support from our state, because that's ultimately the most important thing with this budget. So I'm very hesitant. I think there's a way to do this, but we can't do it alone.
It seems as if that your budget might be the one that might be targeted for cuts, specifically for cuts, because people don't want to cut schools, they don't want to cut roads. Something's got to give.
Yeah. So one thing that actually acts as something that people don't realize, the governor worked with her administrative board to authorize $3.5 billion of bonding for roads. They've already bonded out $700 million. That sounds all well and good to get the roads fixed, but there is also a huge amount of money that we have to pay back those loans, right? So we need to work together on that. So I'm being forced to cover funds when I think the funds were there primarily to start with. It's difficult. There's so many moving parts. There's no easy answer. We want to make sure that our roads are safe. And I see a lot of road work out there. I mean, heading into Grand Rapids, there's quite a bit. Yeah, it's challenging, but like each one of us in our families, you don't spend more than what you make. You don't borrow out more than what you can pay back. You work hard and you do your best. And that's my priority, is to treat this the way I would treat my own family budget and be very careful, make sure the most important things are done. Say we put off, fixing our roof if it's not leaking to another day when the economy is better or when our family budget is better. But that's the type of thing. There's ways for us to tighten our belt and figure this out and do right by people. And our good example is what just happened with this current year budget, because there's a $3 billion shortfall. We did a lot of, well, the budget director and the appropriations chairs, they did a lot of fund switches, but they found a lot of money that was just sitting aside. Like I had $3 million set aside for my crisis and access line. They took that completely, but we were able to find some money in another part of the budget to cover it because the department knew how important it is to save lives through this crisis and access line. So that's a good example. We can find some money and we can dig down and figure this out together. I can't do it alone.
Good morning. You're on the line with State Representative Mary Whiteford.
Hi. I was thinking, so many people have taken cuts in wages. What about starting with our governor? All the officials that are in office take a cut in their wages to help meet the needs.
All right. Appreciate the call and the comment, Mary.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So the governor did take a 15% cut in her wages. The one thing that I thought about doing, and I can't see why not, is that if every state employee does not get a raise this year, that they, going into next year, that they keep their current salary, that saves about $110 million. So I don't see, if it was me and I was working in a hospital and the hospital was having a hard time, I have no problem keeping my salary the same and not increasing it and causing more of a burden. So that's the one thing that I would like to see. And that's a substantial amount of money.
Two things though. One, is it pay cut for or pay freeze for lawmakers and is it more symbolic than anything else? Because really you're not saving that much money.
That's correct. And everybody had to find, I believe, a 5% cut in every single one of the budgets. So we did that as a legislature as well. I know legislators, their salaries, I don't remember what it was like 8 years ago. And then it came down a large amount. So that's always something to consider. Absolutely. Everything should be on the consideration block.
The other thing is, if you're going to cut or freeze wages for state workers, especially those in fields where you want the best and the brightest available, these workers might say, okay, I'll gut it out for a year. But if you're going to do it for 2 or 3 or 4 years down the line, these people are going to say, I can do better in the private sector, and you lose these talents.
Right. And that's always possible. There's a lot of scientists in the Department of Environmental Quality. There's a lot of physicians, doctors, a lot of state employees whose salaries are up to $200,000, some are $300,000. But most people are like our DHHS workers out of our county offices who are, honestly, mine is working about 80 hours a week trying to manage all the COVID-related stuff. So that's a very important thing. Fortunately, we do an annual budget. We reevaluate every year. I'm a very optimistic person. If you guys don't know, my husband and I have 2 acres of sunflowers in bloom in Casco Township right now. So I like to look at the sunny side of things, and I think we make it through this time, and it's going to get better next year.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town for this Monday, August the 10th. I'm Gary Stevens. Final thoughts with State Representative Mary Whiteford. I'm going to put you on the spot, Mary.
Oh, thanks, Gary. So many of you know, one of my biggest emphasis has been something that people don't talk about, and that's being able to have early intervention, early access for mental illness, suicide, depression, drug addiction. So I've got my crisis and access line. It has been awarded as a contract, actually 2 contracts, and should be going live first quarter of 21. I have my crisis stabilization unit licensing bill. So you could actually, if you're in a crisis, you just go to this one facility, you start getting treated from the moment you get there. So that bill currently is going to the Senate to pass the House. And then I've got another bill that helps children who don't need a full psychiatric hospitalization, but more of a transitional setting. So I've got that bill as well that's on the full House floor. I see good support from the department and all my different stakeholders who care about these issues. So just trying to stay focused on that, as well as getting my budget, $26 billion, which will probably be down about $1 billion or so, and making sure that I'm there for the people of Michigan at the hardest times of their lives. And I'm just blessed and thankful to have this opportunity. So thank you.
I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Okay.
Do you think Gretchen Whitmer is going to be leaving Lansing for Washington?
Oh, me? Oh, yeah, that's very political. She is the co-chair of the Biden campaign. So, she's a very political person. I don't think so. That's just my guess, but I only bet $1. So my dollar is no. And I would love for the state of Michigan to have some consistency in its leadership and certainty.
How much dealings have you had with Gilchrist?
I've met him briefly, so I don't know him at all. Seems like a nice guy. He got along with my husband because they could see eye to eye. They're both about 6'4", 6'5", but he seems like a nice guy. But I'm gonna just get my work done regardless of what's going on. And like I said, I'm really blessed to have the chance.
We are done with this segment, unfortunately. We can't take any calls right now. State Representative Mary Whiteford, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on Talk of the Town. We'll put a link to your webpage when we put the podcast of this conversation on our webpage at WHTC.com. Wish you a happy and safe and blessed Labor Day weekend. Look forward to chatting with you again in September.
Okay. Thanks, Gary. See you guys later.
Thank you very much. That is State Representative Mary Whiteford on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. CBS News with Steve Kathan, followed by WHTC News with Peg McNichol, comes your way straight ahead. And then more Talk of the Town for our final half hour.